The Roman Empire never fell, it simply became your immune system. It dictates how you fight diseases today. When you walk through a modern city, you navigate invisible biological pathways forged by the constant movement of legions 2,000 years ago. Rome never actually fell. What if the civilizational collapse you were taught in school is entirely a myth? It sounds absurd at first. Empires always crumble eventually. But when you look at the biological legacy left behind in human populations, the boundary line between antiquity and the modern era begins to blur. The empire simply changed its skin. How did an ancient superpower rewrite your very biology? The history books lie by omission. They focus purely on politics and war. Political systems are merely temporary structures built on top of the much deeper, significantly more permanent foundation of human evolutionary biology. Emperors die, but their biological impacts compound. Are you reading history or just looking at the surface of biology? Biological integration is the ultimate conquest. Stone monuments erode over time. Yet the human body preserves a durable archive of population shifts, recording exactly how deeply the Roman machine penetrated the ancestral genome of Europe. This biological record outlasts any marble statue. Do you understand the genetic gravity of a borderless continent? Look closely at the Vindolanda site. It sits near the Scottish border. Here, archaeologists uncovered wooden tablets detailing the mundane daily lives of diverse soldiers stationed at the absolute edge of the known world. These frontier outposts functioned as genetic mixing bowls. Did the empire survive by breeding a new kind of human? You possess adaptations born in those camps. Soldiers brought pathogens from Egypt to Britannia. This movement forced a brutal evolutionary bottleneck across Europe, killing millions who lacked resistance to the newly globalized germs spreading along the paved Roman roads. Survivors passed on hardened immune genes. Are you carrying the biological defenses forged by ancient trade routes? The traditional story claims barbarians ruined everything. They supposedly burned the eternal city. However, geneticists tracing ancient DNA across the Mediterranean basin reveal that the local populations did not vanish or suffer total replacement during this chaotic era. The genetic continuum remained largely unbroken. Why do history books insist on a total apocalypse? Consider the historian Kyle Harper. He tracks the climate of antiquity. He reveals that cooling temperatures in a series of catastrophic global pandemics actively transformed the empire long before any barbarian swords breached the gates. The massive state fractured in order to survive. Why do you still live within the fragments of that survival? A cooling planet forced their collective hand. Crops failed across the Mediterranean basin. Instead of clinging to a bloated central government in Rome, the citizens localized their power structures to adapt to a newly unpredictable natural environment. The imperial structure simply decentralized itself. Could a civilizational collapse actually just be a brilliant biological adaptation? They abandoned the heavy stone cities. They migrated to dispersed rural villas. This rapid shift from urban centers to the countryside looks like a civilizational collapse to an archaeologist, but to an evolutionary biologist, it represents absolute survival. Your ancestors chose life over an empire. What would you sacrifice to guarantee your own family's survival? The Roman network became an invisible web. It lived on in the collective mind. The legal codes dictating your rights and the urban grids organizing your streets were designed by engineers who never truly abandoned their essential posts. They merely vanished into the general populace. Could an empire persist simply by dissolving into human culture? This reveals a profound biological twist. The empire operated as a parasitic organism. Instead of dying, the state injected its technological and cultural DNA directly into the developing societies of Northern Europe, permanently altering their developmental trajectory. The host civilization never killed the parasite. Did the parasite actually accelerate the evolution of the host? Look at the work of Jonathan Pritchard. He analyzes ancient human genomic data. By extracting DNA from centuries-old skeletons, his team discovered that the people living in Rome during its supposed fall were already a cosmopolitan blend from across the entire Mediterranean. That vast genetic diversity did not suddenly disappear. How could a globalized gene pool just vanish overnight? It could not, and it did not. The diversity spread outward instead. When the central authority supposedly collapsed, these genetically diverse populations dispersed into the surrounding regions, quietly carrying the empire's legacy forward in their bloodlines. The legendary fall was actually a grand dispersal. What if the end of Rome was just a biological seed planting? This completely recontextualizes the Dark Ages. Forget the tired myth of regression. This era functioned as a massive evolutionary incubation period, where the technological and genetic seeds of the fallen empire mutated to survive harsh European environments. Your ancestors were the successful biological mutations. Can you feel the weight of that ancient survival in your bones? The infrastructure itself forced biological changes. Consider the legendary Roman aqueducts. By transporting massive volumes of fresh water into dense urban centers, they inadvertently created vast breeding grounds for entirely new strains of waterborne pathogens. These diseases culled the weakest immune systems. Did Roman engineering accidentally selectively breed a stronger European immune response? The roads stopped carrying imperial legions. They started carrying new ideas and crops. The massive agricultural shifts initiated by Roman engineers permanently altered the human diet, selecting for specific digestive enzymes that you still use today. Lactase persistence, the ability to digest dairy, spread along these paved routes. Did a political failure accidentally trigger a metabolic revolution? The empire literally changed human stomachs. Wheat replaced older, localized foraging staples. This profound shift in caloric intake drove rapid population growth and fundamentally altered the microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria in the gut of every person living within the old imperial borders. You digest food exactly like a Roman citizen. Why do you think bread remains a staple of your diet? The invisible empire controls your daily habits. It dictates your modern sleep patterns. The Roman division of the day into structured hours imposed a mechanical rhythm on human biology that entirely replaced natural seasonal sleep cycles. So your circadian rhythm, your internal body clock, bends to their ancient sundials. Who really controls the hours of your waking life? They even engineered the local geographic landscapes. They drained swamps and leveled ancient forests. By actively terraforming the European continent, reshaping the land for human use, they permanently altered the selective pressures acting on populations, driving rapid adaptation toward agrarian resistance to disease. They essentially designed the modern human habitat. Are you just a creature living in a Roman terrarium? Consider the haunting ruins of Herculaneum. It was buried by dense volcanic ash. The skeletons preserved there show a population deeply adapted to high-density living, bearing the physical markers of specialized labor and systemic infectious diseases. Those brutal urban adaptations eventually spread across the continent. Is your body built to withstand the density of modern cities? The narrative of collapse is a comfort. It gives you a false, clean ending. Believing that empires fall cleanly allows you to ignore the terrifying reality that their systems and consequences linger in the human genetic code for millennia. Rome is not a dead, buried civilization. Is it secretly hiding inside your own cellular structure? The legions never actually laid down their arms. They just evolved into different social structures. The rigid hierarchy of the imperial army mutated into the organizing principles of the medieval church, maintaining absolute control over the vast European population. The military uniforms changed, but the power remained intact. How many of your core beliefs were programmed by this ghost empire? You are the empire's ultimate surviving product. Your immunity and digestion are its artifacts. Every time you fight off a common cold, digest a piece of bread, or organize your day by the hour, you are performing a Roman ritual. You are the living, breathing ruins of Rome. When will you realize that you are the eternal city? The physical stone borders disappeared long ago. The psychological borders remain heavily fortified today. Modern humans tell themselves that society constantly moves forward, escaping the dark shadow of ancient history through the sheer force of technological progress and scientific enlightenment. But human biology moves at a much slower pace. Are you truly modern or just an updated ancient model? The ghost of Rome is extremely patient. It operates on an evolutionary timescale. While human civilizations obsess over the brief rise and fall of individual leaders, the underlying biological structures established by those leaders quietly shape thousands of future generations. Politics is fleeting, but genetics are forever. How much of your modern independence is just a biological illusion? Your ancestors survived the grand imperial dispersal. They carried the microscopic empire safely forward. Through devastating plagues, widespread famines, and cooling climates, the biological legacy of a supposedly fallen state proved vastly more resilient than any marble column or bronze statue. The human genes easily outlived the divine emperors. What will your body leave behind when the modern world fractures? The next time you walk outside, look around. The modern concrete reality is just an illusion. You are navigating a landscape defined by the ghosts of antiquity, living in a body shaped by the selective pressures of a civilization that refused to die. The historical collapse was nothing but a biological transformation. Will you ever realize your immune system is a functioning artifact of the Roman Empire?